Hey guys, it's Black Spring with Autumn here. And if you'd like to help us out with our Hi guys, and do we have a win for the people out of the Senate actions? And it looks like we have a step down from one of the elite, and we'll see what happens. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Black Spring with Autumn. It is Wednesday, without a doubt. It's Wednesday, and thank you so much for coming in. And if you're not sure whether or not you're coming in, I appreciate you for considering coming in on your Wednesday. And I'm just going to do a quick thanks to our loyal patrons, subscribers, and of course the viewers like yourself. And I'll be right back. I just have I've entitled this one a useless information, so we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I'll be right back. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming in for what I've entitled this as useless information. And I guess you'll find out exactly how useless it is um, before the end of the stream. So, yes, so I just want to say hello to everybody that's in the stream already, and that is Callie Unknown 007 and Luciano. It's been a long time, Luciano. Nice to see you, Latin Patriot and Jermaine G. and Cyber Toxin. Hi, Cyber Toxin. Nice to see you. And looks like you're new around here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in. So I just have just a couple of points. And I don't really want to start this out on the same type of commentary, but I think you guys have probably heard the buzz by now. It seems like we've picked up. I didn't really name the characters, the individuals involved in what I'm referring to so much the last time that I was on, but maybe I'll get into that if I have some time. But it just seems like there's a bit of an implosion, is what I'm referring to. Um, an implosion that I'm referring to in the amongst conservatives, dare I say. I put the handle on, I gotta put that handle on the black conservatives. And it's, I mean, I'm not really, I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised that it's going on. And, it's not a good look, for the movement. It's not, but I'm curious as to why, other people are starting to chime in, people that have been otherwise silent, or they've been really hyper focused on their own agendas or their own platforms, but all of a sudden they're kind of going over to this. And what I'm referring to is, maybe we'll get into it later, but I'm not sure if you guys haven't heard, but looks like Candace Owens and Kim Klacik have had a bit of a rift, and it looks like it's turning into an expose on, I guess, mismanagement of campaign funds, or there's an explanation that they need for, of course, campaign funds or spending, and just, there's a lot of work going into the FEC reports. Like, there's a lot of digging around going on, and I don't know. It just seems it's going to get pretty nasty, and I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with that. But it's kind of sad to see that, with which, because I do think that there is a spectrum of conservatism, and it looks like this particular spectrum has turned out to be really just, pretty much dysfunctional. I don't know if it's because of there's so much talk about race, or who the perfect person is, or who the best representative is, from the Black community to represent the Black community. It just seems like it's imploding right now, and I don't think it's a good look, and I don't think it's sustainable. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not right for saying that. Maybe I'm just assuming. I assume too much when I say that. Maybe you guys have heard of the situation, but it's pretty messy. I mean, I think, for one, I think you have to subscribe, I think, to Candace's show in order to see what she's doing. But I think maybe she exposed some of it there, but she was also live with some of this drama. But, do what you want wherever you are, but I think it's interesting, and it's sad at the same time. Because I think on the left, so to speak, they want to say that, basically, that the Republicans and that whole party is in disarray. They already want to say, oh, well, there's no more of this, or, they want you to concede based on a level of instability, which, fighting on any level is unstable. But I don't know what the resolve will be in this, other than transparency, I guess, when it comes to these campaigns and all the people that are running under the banner of Republican, or the people who have flipped and flopped between both parties. So we'll see what happens. Didn't exactly mean to start off with that, but I thought we have some interesting nuggets to start with. And I do want to say hello to Anarchy Television. Anarchy Television, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming in on the useless information. right, guys. Thank you so much again. So we'll get started with number one on today's episode, or this evening's episode of Black Spring with Autumn. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I really appreciate it, as always. And I'm going to share my screen with you because the first segment I'm going to bring to you is going to be pertaining to what I'm considering a win for the people and not for we, the government. Dare I say that? I'm only trying to paraphrase what I heard our regime leader say at his address to the nation earlier this year. So let me just go with that. So this is coming out of OAN, that's One American News, and that is the Senate GOP blocks for the People Act. And I'll take you there right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And I'm going to give you the full scale on that because I know you would not have this any other way. So I'll do that for you right now. All right. So we'll dig right in here. This one's not too painful. So this one's coming out of One America News Network. And according to this is the Senate GOP blocks for the People Act. Okay, so you have here picture, we've got our usual representatives. The Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, joined from left by the Senator Roy Blunt and Senate Minority Whip John Thune. I don't want to say if it's Thune or Tune. It's much harder to say Thune for me. However, we'll start here. According to this, Senator Mike Lee, a Republican of Utah, held nothing back in his description for the People Act. In an interview on Tuesday, Lee said the Senate's move to strike down the bill was a, quote, victory for the angels, end quote. He also declared the bill the, quote, Corrupt Politicians Act and argued it was not written in response to the 2020 election, but was constructed years ago. The motion to debate failed after the evenly split chamber voted along party lines. Democrat Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat of New York, criticized his Republican colleagues for standing against the bill. Quote, Madam President, I want to be clear about what just happened on the Senate floor. Every single Senate Republican voted against starting debate, end quote. He expressed, quote, starting debate on legislation to protect Americans' voting rights, end quote. Is it crying? Who gave him this handle? Crying Chuck Schumer. According to this, every single Democratic senator stood together in the fight to protect the right to vote in America. Make no mistake, Democrats will not let this go. This will not be the last time that voting rights legislation comes up for a debate in this Senate. Are you guys picking that up? Are you getting that? Okay, so I'll keep going here. According to this, Republicans in the upper chamber set up an effective roadblock against Democrats' sweeping voting rights bill. On Tuesday, all GOP senators stuck to their side of the aisle when called on to vote to begin the debate for the People Act, also known as S1. Quote, on this vote, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 50, end quote, Kamala Harris announced. Quote, 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to, end quote. Schumer got a short boost in confidence shortly before the vote after convincing key swing vote Senator John Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, to stick with Democrats. In return for his, quote, yes, end quote, vote, Schumer offered to bring up Manchin's more bipartisan voting rights bill. However, GOP senators stood firm in their stance that S1 was unnecessary. So I'm actually going to play you some of this footage. And this is a tweet that came from Mike Lee. That's Senator Mike Lee. This bill won't make it easier to vote. It will make it easier to vote illegally. So I'm going to play a little bit of that for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
This bill isn't about strengthening democracy. This bill is about strengthening Democrats. This bill won't make it easier to vote. It will make it easier to vote illegally. This bill isn't motivated so much by a reaction to voting laws passed by Republican states. It's a bill that reflects hostility toward Republicans themselves. Now, look, let's be very frank about what it would do, setting aside for a moment all the other policy and constitutional issues. The constitutional issues ranging from federalism to the First Amendment and a lot of stuff in between. Set those aside for just a second. Think about the policy implications of the federal government funding campaigns for federal office. That means they'll be spending millions of dollars per race, and that means not everyone can be a candidate. So they'll have to decide which candidates are legitimate and which are not, which will receive funding and which are not. We've seen throughout human history, and especially in modern times, what happens in governments when they hold elections, but the government decides who's on the ballot. So too, when governments fund campaigns, that's a way, one way or another, of preferring certain candidates over others. That threatens the very fabric upon which our system of government is based. It's simply intolerable. This is deeply partisan. It's problematic. It's unconstitutional in lots and lots of ways, and we should not pass it.
Yikes. All right, sorry guys. I did it again. But I think that's still pretty too close. It's 50 nays to 50 yays. So I don't know, that's really close. I mean, but I'll keep going here. I'll round this one out here. According to this, I'm actually going to hop down a bit because no, I'll start here. Quote, there's nothing broken around the country. The system upheld very well during the tense stress in the latter part of the previous Congress, end quote. Stated Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican of Kentucky. Quote, there's no rationale basis for federalizing this election, end quote. Republicans hammered home the point that the bill was far-reaching and would take the constitutional power to administrate elections away from the states. They argued S1 would establish a federal election system designed to benefit the Democratic National Committee by stacking the Federal Election Commission with a Democrat majority, expanding mail-in voting, and allowing minors to vote. Okay, so, I don't know if you guys have a strong stomach. Maybe you can stand to hear from one more person on this one. And this one is your favorite, Senator Mitch McConnell, Leader McConnell. According to Twitter, there's no coherent rationale for a federal takeover of elections in all 50 states. Today, the Senate will put an end to Democrats' attempted power grab under S1. There you go.
Look, what this is really about is an effort for the federal government to take over the way we conduct elections in this country. It is a solution in search of a problem. And so finally today, we will put an end to it here in the Senate. The American people can be relieved that the federal government, at least in this area, is not going to expand and supplant the states which have been involved in conducting elections throughout the history of our country. Look, what this is really about.
Okay, in addition, Republicans believe S1 would have uprooted recent legislature from several states to bolster election integrity by demanding voter IDs and limiting mail-in voting. Quote, this is a huge win for the citizens of the United States. This is a huge win for democracy, and it's a huge win for the integrity of our elections, end quote, declared Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican of Texas. Quote, the Corrupt Politicians Act is the most dangerous legislation we've considered in the Senate in the 9 years I've served in this body, end quote. Meanwhile, top Democrats, including Schumer, Kamala Harris, vow to continue pushing sweeping voting rights legislation, although analysts warn there is no clear path for Democrats. So I don't know. What do you guys think they'll do next? I mean, I don't know. What's the tactic here? What do they normally do when they can't quite get something through? Do you think they'll just change the name of the bill, or they'll just add they'll add the color element and say, hey, let's have a representative of this this group to come in and and vouch for this bill, or who knows what tactics they'll use next. But thank you guys so much for tuning in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And hi, Old School Wolf Media. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to take us to our next segment, and I will be right back. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And so what I'm going to take you to next is, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but it looks like we have a loss here, and it's going to be John McAfee. Unfortunately, we have a bit of a story or an update on him. So I'll be right back with that. And just hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, guys. So the next story I'm going to be sharing with you is going to come from Zero Hedge. So I thank you guys once again for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. We're just catching up with a little bit of we're kind of catching up with some people around here, a little bit, dare I say, the elite. I use that word a lot. I probably overuse it. So I'll give you some full scale on this one. All right. So this is coming out of Zero Hedge and the penman Durden here. This is John McAfee found dead in prison cell after U.S. extradition approved. So according to this, the update came in around 4:15 Eastern Standard Time, that McAfee's lawyer has confirmed to ABC News that his client was found dead in a Spanish jail cell on Wednesday. 75-year-old entrepreneur was arrested on tax evasion charges, failing to file tax returns for 4 years. He's been in jail in Spain since October 6th, facing charges that he hid significant assets, which included real estate and a yacht. His defense lawyers had argued that the extradition request was politically motivated and therefore wasn't appropriate. He disagreed with the current monetary system, which has made him, quote, public enemy number one, end quote, according to court documents released on Wednesday. The U.S. calculates that McAfee owed more than $4.2 million in taxes, the documents show. The ruling came as the latest setback for McAfee, but it wasn't the start of his legal troubles. In March, the SEC accused him of hiding cryptocurrency income of more than $23 million. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss has said McAfee, quote, exploited a widely used social media platform and enthusiasm among investors in the emerging cryptocurrency market to make millions through lies and deception, end quote. The next update comes at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, just after Spain's National Court approved a request for his extradition back to the U.S., where he faced the prospect of dying in a jail cell. Spanish newspaper El País reported Wednesday evening that John McAfee committed suicide in his cell, dying at the age of 75. He was being held in a prison in Barcelona. So far, initial evidence of his death, which occurred Wednesday afternoon local time, points to suicide. He was initially arrested by Spanish authorities on October 3rd, 2020 at the El Prat airport, just as he was about to take a plane to Turkey. He was arrested at the behest of the U.S., where he is wanted for evading millions of dollars in taxes. The Spanish judge Jose de la Mata reportedly ordered his arrest. Okay, so we have a graphic here. In the last tweet sent from an account tied to McAfee, the cybersecurity software pioneer warned that, quote, all power corrupts, end quote. In recent weeks, his tweets seem to have become increasingly hopeless. In a democracy, power is given, not taken, but it is still power. Love, compassion, caring have no use for it, but it is fuel for greed, hostility, jealousy. All power corrupts. Take care which powers you allow a democracy to wield. Now, this one was, I guess this is signed or closed John McAfee here on June 18, 2021. One of McAfee's tweets from 2019 featured a cryptic warning about the eccentric founder. He made a fortune off his eponymous security software, then squandered it, potentially being, quote, suicided, end quote, by the US government. Okay, so you can see here, here's another graphic here. This is from, I guess this is an account. Let's do this allegedly. Let's keep that on for the AI here. So getting subtle messages from US officials saying, in effect, quote, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm. A little dark, right? But, you know, it's a little busy there. And of course, there's more, you know, it gets, I guess, a little bit more cryptic, I guess, or, you know. But I'll go ahead and close this one out. You know, actually what I'll do is I'll put this in the stream for you guys. All right, Latin Patriot, you're confused. You're confused by my commercials. Oh, that's early. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, they're just, you know, it's just a commercial. It can come at any time. Cali Unknown 007 says, anybody really believe that he committed suicide? Because I don't. And Latin Patriot says, I also want to invite you to the Backyard Politics channel. Okay, well, I'll try to grab that. Thank you so much, Latin Patriot. Yeah, you'll get used to the commercials around here. I know some of them are a little bit wonky, but there we go. All right, so I'm gonna put this link in the stream for you guys if you guys want to dig into the get the cryptic shovel out. There's something for you to chew on there. Okay, so according to this, we can't help but wonder whether conspiracy theories about the circumstances of his death will emerge in the coming weeks, like they did after the in-prison suicide of another notable American. Antivirus software pioneer John McAfee may die in a U.S. prison after Spain's national court approved an extradition request by the United States to face tax-related criminal charges, which carry a sentence of up to 30 years if convicted. The 76-year-old McAfee has been charged by Tennessee prosecutors with evading taxes after failing to report consulting income he received while promoting cryptocurrencies, along with income from speaking engagements and the rights to his life story as a documentary, according to MarketWatch. Last week, McAfee tweeted, quote, I have nothing, yet I regret nothing. So yeah, this whole thing to me seems to be pretty laden with more cryptic messages. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, it's made quite a bit of news today. But so what I'm going to do is I am going to round us out on this segment, and we do have one more resignation that I just want to highlight. Just go into that one just for a second. It looks like we have Warren Buffett who's resigned. So we'll go there. And this will be a commercial for those of you that are trying to keep up. I will be right back. Hey guys, it's Black Spring with Autumn here. And if you'd like to help us out with our AI and dissemination of the stream campaign, please hit that like, unlike, dare to throw caution to the wind by sharing, or just making sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. And I want to thank you for your ultimate and baseline level support here on Black Spring with Autumn. And we'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in on this useless information stream. And we'll go to our last story, which, of course, I mentioned involves Warren Buffett stepping down. We just have so many people stepping down these days. It's a little bit ironic. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, so we're going to go to this one right now. And I will give you the full scale on this one. All right. So what we have here is we have a story coming out of the New York Times. I'm thinking I can cover this one. All right. So Warren Buffett's exit from the Gates Foundation clouds its future. Mr. Buffett, a longtime friend of Bill Gates, stepped down as a trustee of the organization just weeks after its founder announced their divorce. See what happens here. Warren Buffett, the chairman and chief executive of Berkshire Hathaway, said on Wednesday that he had resigned as trustee of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, coming just weeks after the couple announced their divorce and raising new questions about the future of the foundation. Mr. Buffett had been a huge contributor to the Gates Foundation, one of the foremost and richest nonprofit organizations dedicated to social causes more than a decade. It is one of 5 nonprofit organizations to which he has pledged the majority of his fortune, which Forbes estimated at $105.3 billion, and is the only one not run by a member of the Buffett family. All told, Mr. Buffett, 90, has given Berkshire stock worth $41 billion at the time of donation to the 5 foundations. In 2006, he committed to giving about $31 billion to the Gates Foundation. In the announcement on Wednesday, Mr. Buffett said he had donated an additional $4.1 billion to philanthropy, with $3.2 billion going to the Gates Foundation. Quote, "For years, I have been a trustee, and an active trustee at that, of only one recipient of my funds, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation," end quote. Mr. Buffett said in a statement, quote, "I am now resigning from that post, just as I have done at all corporate boards other than Berkshire's." With 1,600 staff members directing $5 billion in annual grants to 135 countries, the Gates Foundation is a powerful institution, especially in the field of global public health. Imagine that. Yet the foundation has only 3 trustees, Mr. Buffett, Mr. Gates, and Melinda French Gates. And Mr. Buffett's departure comes at an uncertain time for the foundation. The foundation's chief executive, Mark Sussman, acknowledged in an email to the staff that, quote, "Warren's departure raises questions about the foundation's governance," end quote. He reiterated that he had been, quote, "actively discussing with him, Bill, and Melinda approaches to strengthen our governance to provide long-term stability and sustainability for the foundation's governance and decision-making in light of the recent announcement of Bill and Melinda's divorce," end quote. There has been speculation over the past month that Mr. Gates and Ms. French Gates might create a board for the foundation in light of the rupture in their relationship. Mr. Sussman said that he planned to share additional information about changes to the foundation next month. That news only added to jitters at the foundation. Quote, "It adds a lot of uncertainty," end quote, said a foundation staff member who spoke on condition of anonymity about internal deliberations. Benjamin Soskis, a senior research associate for the Center on Nonprofits and Philanthropy at the Urban Institute, which receives funding from the foundation, said, quote, "The Gates Foundation is the most important philanthropic institution in the world, and this is another sign that there likely will be major transformation in how it's governed," end quote. The foundation gives grants in areas ranging from gender equality to global development. It has funded efforts to control malaria and eradicate polio, and has spent more than $1.8 billion on its response to the pandemic, including on testing, treatment, and you guessed it, mocktails. Even before the divorce announcement, the death of William H. Gates Sr., Bill's father, last year signaled a change of the guard at the private foundation, the nation's largest. The elder Mr. Gates was co-chair of the foundation along with Mr. Gates and Ms. French Gates. On Wednesday, Mr. Buffett, who will turn 91 in August, said that he knew he had, quote, moved past the fourth quarter into overtime, end quote, in life. Mr. Sussman thanks Mr. Buffett for his philanthropy, writing in a blog post, quote, the impact of his prodigious generosity is hard to quantify, end quote. The Gateses also offered praise for Mr. Buffett. Quote, the value of Warren's gift goes beyond anything that can be measured, end quote, Mr. Gates said in a statement, while Ms. French Gates thanked her fellow billionaire for his, quote, unwavering belief that everyone deserves to live a healthy, fulfilling life, end quote. The foundation's reputation for global philanthropy has been overshadowed lately by reports of Mr. Gates' questionable conduct in war-related settings. The New York Times has reported that on at least a few occasions, Mr. Gates pursued women who worked for him at Microsoft and at the foundation, according to people with direct knowledge of his overtures. In 2019, Microsoft's board, on which Mr. Gates sat, opened an inquiry into one of those cases after being notified that he had, quote, sought to initiate an intimate relationship with a company employee in the year 2000, end quote. A Microsoft spokesman said the board hired a law firm to investigate. The same year, Mr. Gates' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, the money manager and convicted sex offender, burst into public view. The Times reported that the two had met several times. Representatives from Mr. Gates have said it was only to discuss philanthropy, to consternation of Ms. French Gates. The following year, Mr. Gates stepped down from the boards of Microsoft and Berkshire Hathaway. Quote, Warren and I were the best of friends long before I joined and will be long after, end quote, he said at the time. Mr. Buffett did not mention either of his fellow trustees by name in his statement on Wednesday, but offered his, quote, full support, end quote, for Mr. Sussman. Quote, I think Buffett's statement is paradoxical. On the one hand, the absence of reference to the Gateses is pretty striking given the events of the last couple of months, end quote, Mr. Solskis said. Quote, on the other hand, it points to the possibility of a future, healthier board where personal relationships are less salient and the perspectives of people bring in as trustees and the checks that they play on each other are what's more important, end quote. Mr. Buffett had recently been in the spotlight in a debate over how little income tax American billionaires, including himself, pay. Citing leaked Internal Revenue Service data, the news organization ProPublica reported that Berkshire chief paid just $23.7 million in taxes from 2014 to 2018, a period which his wealth grew by $24 billion. Without referring to the ProPublica article specifically, Mr. Buffett acknowledged in his statement on Wednesday that he had, quote, relatively little, end quote, income, with his wealth flowing largely from his Berkshire holdings. He also argued that his charitable donations led to only about 40 cents in tax savings per $1,000 in donations. A longtime advocate of tightening tax rules for the wealthy, Mr. Buffett said Wednesday, although tax deductions were important to some wealthy donors, quote, it is fitting that Congress periodically revisit the tax policy for charitable contributions, particularly in respect to donors who get imaginative, end quote. All right, so it looks like we're getting to the end of this one. The departure of Mr. Buffett, a longtime friend and collaborator of Mr. Gates, opened the door to further questions about the state of the friendship between the two billionaires, an intergenerational odd couple who bonded over business, philanthropy, and a mutual passion for the card game bridge. Mr. Gates was a near constant presence at Berkshire's annual shareholder meetings since joining its board in 2004. That friendship eventually extended to shared philanthropy. 4 years after Mr. Buffett pledged his initial billions to the Gates Foundation, Mr. Buffett and the Gateses created the Giving Pledge in 2010, a public commitment to philanthropy in which signatories promised to give away their the bulk of their wealth, taking their cues from the Gateses and Mr. Buffett. Hundreds of the world's wealthy have signed on. All right, so that is pretty loquacious coming out of the New York Times. All right, guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn, and we have some people that have managed to sneak in. How are you guys doing? I see Zero the Infinite's here, and Callie Unknown. Thank you guys so much for coming in at the 11th hour. I really appreciate it. I have a couple of comments here. Zero the Infinite says, make sure that you hit the like button. Oh my gosh, you always do that. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss any comments. I'd rather you guys do that than me. Thank you so much, Zero the Infinite. And Callie Unknown 007 says, that's pretty big. Are they scattering like cockroaches? It's like somebody turned on the light. All right, Dr. Fish is here. He says, much love, everyone. Latin Patriot. And I'm not sure we have X in Dragon X71742 over on Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm not sure. Not sure, but it looks like you're getting a little bit spammy. You might want to check the community tab for standards there. But I'm going to run a few infomercials, and I will be right back. And of course, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in on this useless information on your Wednesday. All right, so thank you guys so much again. And just for kicks, Latin Patriot says they sometimes take panel guests over at Backyard Politics. You'd be a great as a guest. I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me something about that, Latin Patriot? Yeah, if you could just fill me in just a little bit more. I'm not sure I've heard of that. I mean, of course, you guys can always send me a message over at blackspringwithautumn@gmail.com. I have no idea. I'm not familiar with that at all. But I do want to say hello to everybody that's in the stream. And I'm going to go through a few changes here in my lighting here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the last one. Okay. So, and you said totes spammy. Totes spammy. Oh, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I think I'm getting back to normal here. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, if you could, like, I don't know, send me an email. Like, is that the name of the channel, or I'm not sure. I don't want to sound like a total nosebleed, but I'm just not familiar with that. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say salute to everybody in the chat before we get out of here. Callie Unknown 007. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Luciano and Latin Patriot. Jermaine G. Cyber Toxin. I think looks like you're new around here. If you are, that's great. Thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. And Jermaine G's here. Thank you so much. A little goofy sounding, but I know why. Anarchy Television and Tyrant's Bane TDOA. You snuck in. I think I saw you, but I don't know if I said hello. But thank you so much for coming in and for supporting the channel. And Old School Wolf Media, I really appreciate it. It's always nice to see you. And Zero the Infinite's here. Thank you so much. And Dr. Fish came in. I haven't seen you in a while, Dr. Fish. Hope you're doing well. And it says, okay, so it's backyard. Let me make note to self here. Note to self. It won't take long. Okay, let's have a look there. Take a look. All right, and so you put it there. Okay, good. I can just grab it from the chat. Sometimes it's easier for me to do it. You know, I'm looking at my phone a lot of times to see if I'm seeing the same things you guys are seeing. So yeah, so I'm not like multitasking or anything, but I just want to make sure I'm seeing what you guys are seeing at times. Okay. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And we will do one more final infomercial, and then we're going to be out unless you guys want to chime in. Actually, I'm going to open this up for a second, just for kicks. I'm going to do a couple of infomercials. If anybody has anything they would like to share, I don't post a lot of titles because I find that, they suppress things even more when I actually assign an actual title to what I'm talking about. And that's unfortunate because, but that's what they do. That's what they do. So if you feel the need to chime in, or if you have something you'd like to share, I'll give you your usual 3 to 5 minutes, and and then we'll call it. All right, guys, I will be right back. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Marcy T., Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It looks like I have no takers, which is just fine. I appreciate you guys so much for coming in, or for considering coming in. Sometimes we have voyeurs and, maybe they're not coming in, but that's okay. It's all good. So I'm just going to, thank you guys again so much for coming in. Of course, I look forward to seeing you guys on the next live stream, in the comment section on a video, a night queue, or every now and then I have some useless information for you. And I did start this one out with just a little bit. I didn't really go into. I started out with a little bit of commentary on. I think I started out with a little bit of commentary on this one that was pertaining to just transparency, and I think with the loop that we kind of stay in terms of elections and whatnot, the FEC reports. A lot of people are, we have there are a lot of conservatives and a lot of Republicans, dare I say. I don't want to say Republicans, I'll just say conservatives are pretty much, they're doing their homework, and they're vetting candidates, and they're vetting candidates that tend to want to stay in the rotation, I think, for lack of a better word. I'm starting to think, just from what I'm learning, that, my gosh, could campaigning actually be that much of a, could it be that it's almost like it's there's so many loopholes for not just fraud, but it can be continuous. And I mean, I think they're vetting candidates, and they're also looking for strategies to maybe help others that actually have a greater chance at winning. I think that's I can see that, I can see the strategy, that as a strategy. And I think it's kind of like, it's almost like that's a movement in itself right now that's going on, but it's being looked at in one way as infighting. Like, we have this whole situation with Candace and Kim Klacik, but then you also have, people in the center that are saying, okay, hey, look, this is not to be looked at. If we discover somebody that's not so whatever, then it's better we find out who they are as a candidate and what they're spending. They're spending the campaign, how they're managing the campaign finances while they're campaigning, or while they're not in office. Because if you find out later, then you've just contributed to to an issue that we have already. So I mean, I can see both sides of it, but I also see another element there that I don't like. I think there's too much talk about race, overall, I think. And when I say that, I'm also referring to, like, it's just, it's almost like a tactic, or I don't want to say it's a scam, a total scam, but like, it's almost like, okay, well, you've entered the Republican Party, and now you can't be attacked, because the same, you're going to cry, oh, well, this is the reason that, we weren't a part of this in the first place. So it can be a trap, and it's unfortunate. I think it can be a trap, and yeah, that's unfortunate, but I think some people are in it for the right reasons, but I think other people, you're going to get exposed either way. And yeah, I just think it's just been, there's a lot of infiltration going on. And I also think that I said this on the last stream. I think some people are too attached to that handle. They're too attached to that. It's almost like yeah, thank you. I know I was on the end, and then I started going back to the commentary that I was mentioning earlier. But I'm just thinking, at times it seems that, people that in the Black community, they tend to, I do agree that many Blacks they're raised conservatively, but then they think that they can somehow triumph over, over over the past by just rebelling, and just thinking that they're making a difference by rebelling or going the other way. Or they think if they join forces, for good, with somebody that happens to be in the other background or on the other side, then they've surrendered, and their whole, and I don't know the psychology, the full psychology behind it, but I'm telling you, it's kind of it's not good. It's not going anywhere. And I think, I mean, at any time you can jump on, I mean, especially with things that are going on in California right now, you've got a lot of people speaking out. And, I think a lot of people want to just, they have a tactic in which they just kind of make it about something else, rather than, if somebody is exploiting or laundering money in the campaign, I do think that needs to be brought out. But don't make it about something else. Don't make it about the race. Don't make it about somebody's former profession. It's just that you just can't do one. You just can't do one without the other. It just gets to be really messy. And I don't see that that's sustainable. I just think people are doing things for the wrong reason, and it's going to come out. It's always going to come out, and you can kick and you can scream, and you can't fix it up. That your corruption and your your scam is going to come out. So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but I just want to thank you guys again, and I'm out. Seriously, I'm out this time. So now we're coming in at 54 minutes, under 55 minutes. So I'm going to get you guys out of here and say goodnight, and have a great rest of your Wednesday / Friday morning.